When you first meet him, you'll never forget him. You know, he makes a lasting impression on you. He's become a best friend and a brother to me.
A lot of people would just shun themselves, hide in a closet, and just wait to die. He's not going to do that.
I call them journeys. And I said, this is a journey nobody wants to go through, but we'll get through it.
He doesn't take anything for granted. I mean, he's very grateful for anything that happens to him in his life.
Doug's favorite saying is, "It is what it is," and he was determined to make the best of the situation and to better himself.
He was helping kids with accidents that were down on themselves. His first month there, he's talking to him. He wanted to make someone feel better. You know?
About 2 months before our wedding, just kind of taking a little break to get away from kind of all the wedding planning kind of stuff. So we all went to the beach, and my fiance was taking pictures, and the waves were kind of coming in, and if you look at the lake, it looked like it was really deep. I said, you know, it would be a funny picture if I just ripped off my shirt and just went tailing it into the water to get a big chuckle from everybody, like, look at Doug jackass going to swim, you know.
All day, even before we went to my sister's campsite, he wanted to go in the water.
I just whipped off my shirt and I started running, and I would jump over the waves. And as I was running, my momentum just carried me, and I dove out, and I led too much with my head, and I just impacted right into the ground. Never blacked out, so I can remember it like it was yesterday, which kind of sucks, but.
I grabbed his shoulders, and the first thing he looked up is, "Corey, I can't feel my legs, I can't feel my legs." And he started bawling.
I remember subconsciously I was trying to take my one arm, my left arm wasn't working, my right arm I could move, so I was trying to take my knuckles, and so I thought I was just going to kind of drift out. They thought I was just joking around, but then they said I went down and I came up, my face was bright red.
And I called in from help from the shore, and we went in and pulled him out of the water, brought him to the beach.
They brought me to Upstate University in Syracuse, choppered me from Old Fort to Syracuse. I was there in ICU for a week, and I remember the neurosurgeon would come to shake my hand, and I couldn't grip it. When I hit, my burst fractured my C6, cervical 6 in my neck, and I burst fractured, like I hit the anterior and the posterior part of my cord. Never cut anything, but I bruised it. For the central nervous system, though, when you touch your cord, break your cord, or hurt your cord, bruise it, whatever. The nerves grow back, but they don't naturally like go back and together. They reach out and they form scar tissue. So that's basically what's going on in my neck, is that the neurons are flowing up here and they're flowing down here, but there's not a connection to go from A to B.
Technically, a quadriplegic is supposed to have no use of all limbs, his arms or his legs, but Doug is different. He kind of like breaks that rule.
They sent me over to Sunnyview, down in Schenectady, Sunnyview Rehab, and I was there for 2 months. And then I asked one of my therapists, have you ever seen somebody with my injury walk again? And then she told me no. And at that time was the first time that I was just like, oh hell, you know, I might not walk again, kind of thing. And that was the first day, like, of reality, kind of thing, which was a hard day, you know, especially, you know, you had to cancel the wedding, and my God, that was the hardest thing ever, because she was like, you know, she stayed with me every 61 days I was in the hospital, didn't leave my side once. For her not to have her wedding was really tough. The day before our wedding was the first night outside the hospital, which we woke up on a Sunday to the church bells at the church that we were supposed to get married at. Was probably the hardest one, the hardest day out of all the 4 years was that day. You name it, she did it. Pharmacy, medications, support.
She was his rock for the longest time. I mean, there was no doubt about it. She was his rock. But once the accident happened, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard on anybody.
It felt like my whole life was all done. you know, and now is the time. It's just like, why even fight? What do you got left to fight for?
He's young, and he didn't want to have to depend on other people to do things for him that he wanted to do for himself, and that's what pushed him to go further, to learn the things to do on his own.
Used to be all about myself. I mean, I always had a good heart, but I was always about me, make the money, buy me toys, me. It was always me. Well, even when I was home, I learned patience. Obviously you have to have patience when you can't brush your teeth or comb your hair, and you have to have people do it for you, and you have to have somebody get you up in the morning and help you in the shower and get you dressed and help you eat, and just a lot of stuff like that was just so disheartening, you know what I mean?
When you're 30 years old, to look at life like you can't do things that you used to do. And like I said, he still had, his moments and his days where, he would get upset, but that's all they were moments.
I had a bad time in my life. I think everybody can kind of relate. I went through, lost a lot of good people. My grandmother and my best friend, he got killed, and that just kind of put me in a downspin.
Once he got in an accident, I think he realized that God was the reason why, he survived. Because in all actuality, he probably shouldn't have. I mean, they say he broke some decent bones in his neck, and it was tough. But I don't know if I'd be that strong. He definitely found God, and he found a reason to live. It's tough, that's for sure. But he's doing what he needs to do.
He says all the time that he doesn't care about money or objects or anything like that. He cares about obviously his health, which is always a concern, and just being happy in life and happy where he's at, period.
I found inspiration in him, and he found inspiration in some of the stuff I do, I guess. I think we kind of played off each other, and I think I got him motivated in the gym, and he got me motivated to kind of go back out and go back to school and do stuff like that. So
He got out of rehab, and he wanted to go back to school. He went online to Herkimer and completed a 2-year degree and just got his diploma last year. Along with that, he says, I want to go for my driver's license. That's awesome. Picked up a van, bought a van from Sunnyview that was just kind of hanging out there.
It is pretty sweet. It is, and I've driven with him more than anybody else in that van. And, people ask me, is it a little scary driving in it? And I said, actually, he drove worse before the accident.
I was surprised when he had that much impact. When he first got the van, I'm really shocked on how well he actually drove. Because I'm thinking he doesn't have much control. How's he gonna make turns? How's he gonna, react in the shorts? I was shocked. I still am. But he drives like we would.
This is a tri-pin that I use to steer. And my controller over here is push for brake, pull for gas. Because I don't have to use it with my fingers. So if you see I'm using my palm, it's almost like driving a boat. Like I'm to the point now that I don't need the pin, and I just drive like a normal person, but it took a little while to do that.
Then there's a Crazy Cripple license plate.
Crazy Cripple, yeah. I got my license plate since Super Quad, so we all got our little things. It's fun, to be able to play with your injury and stuff, and just be positive about it, and joke about it. You got to be kind of lighthearted.
He is a crazy cripple. And he's funny. And it fits him.
How the government gave it to me, I don't know how they do. Usually maybe they just didn't catch it. I don't know, but I like it. I couldn't call myself on the radio Crazy Cripple. That wouldn't work.
Whatever makes him happy. I love him to death, and I want him to be happy. And if he wants Crazy Cripple for his license plate, that's more than fine with me.
Some people may be offended by it, but who's going to be offended by it? Someone else in a wheelchair? Yeah, I'm not driving around with that license plate. He's driving around with that license plate. So that's to each his own.
Well, I don't know him. I don't look at him like the Crazy Cripple, but he's trying to be Doug and trying to be funny. As long as he's okay with it, I would be. But that wouldn't be my choice of words for him. Crazy Cripple, no. Definitely not. Crazy, yeah. Cripple, nah.
Princess, he was living in Schenectady. He was moving out, and he realized that the dog was being beaten, left in the back room all night, not being let out to go to the bathroom, not fed well. And when he moved out, he basically took the dog.
God, I love that dog. I got a dog named Princess and a cat named Mortimer. I mean, really? You know, I used to bring her everywhere. Everywhere. My friends, they used to get so pissed off at me because I bring her everywhere. Now she's by herself. Until I went out and finally got a cat for her so she would have a play toy. Well, not play toy, but a companion. That dog means more than anything to me. More than anything.
He has a dog to take care of, which is added motivation. At least it's not just himself that he's got to worry about.
His passion was always to be a disc jockey or something to do with radio or TV. So he says, I want to go to a new school, radio and television. I went, perfect.
1049 The Cat, Miranda Lambert, Kerosene. You know, speaking of Miranda Lambert, we feel like giving away tickets today. Caller number 14 this weekend, Country Fest, 476-1049, 476-1049. You got yourself a pair of caller number 14 on your favorite country radio station, 1049 The Cat.
We have other people who come in and put their heart and soul into it and want to become very good broadcasters, and I would definitely put Doug in that category. He works hard to be good at it.
I've heard his demos, I've listened to him. He's got a good voice. He knows how to carry on a conversation. He can be good in either talk or just a DJ.
Give it away. Only on your favorite country radio station, 1049 The Cat.
How do you feel about his nickname, the Quadfather?
He calls himself the Quadfather because he understands his own situation. My problem with it is that if you just randomly go on the radio and you call yourself the Quadfather, people don't see him on the radio, so they don't know it. And with this politically correct society that we live in, I'm just afraid that he's going to offend too many people to stick around long enough to hear what his story is. Now, I'm not a PC person myself, and I think it's a cool name. However, if you're talking about radio and there's a potential of upsetting 3 out of 10 listeners, it's not really a good thing. I mean, that's 30% of your audience. And I completely understand his perspective of calling himself the Quadfather, because he's sort of like, you know, he's like the Don. He's the Don of quads, you know? He wants to be the leader. He wants people to be inspired by him and see him.
It doesn't matter if he had the nicest radio name or Quadfather. Somebody's going to have a problem with his name or his voice, or, you know, not everybody's going to like everything. So I think it's funny. I think it'll get a reaction, and sometimes negative press is better than positive press.
I like it. I mean, I couldn't call myself on the radio Crazy Cripple. That wouldn't work. So that's how I came up with the Quadfather. I came up with is another quadriplegic at the hospital. He's jacked, Eric. He's a buddy of mine. He gave me a shirt and it said the Quadfather and the Godfather logo. Yeah, have you seen me wearing it?
I think he stole it from me. So you better trademark that.
From my perspective, it's very inspiring. Do I think he can get a job in broadcasting? Yes. Do I think he will get a job in broadcasting? Yes. Do I think he will succeed in broadcasting? Yes.
He's going to be very successful in radio, television, whichever direction he decides to go. And I think he's just basically going to get stronger, and he's going to keep improving.
He's hungry for knowledge. He doesn't want to stop. When he gets his degree in this, I don't think it's going to be enough for him either.